Hey Dorte, so I've been asked to make a short presentation of the play Waiting for Godot that revolves around the characters Vladimir and Estragon, who's sitting and waiting for this Gadot, and as he never shows up, they must kill the endlessly long waiting time. So with a brief intro, I would like now to comment a bit on characters, which is gonna be the most important characters of Vladimir and Estragon. So the two characters in this story is about Vladimir and Instagram, and they're both desperate, in need of doing or saying something because they're waiting for Gathered. And they decide to start to talk about many different things with no importance at all. They just trying to kill time as they are eternally bored. And they entertain one another with many different things, and sometimes they will be frustrated if they are not capable of finding anything important to talk about. For example, in this conversation on page 2 from sentence 29 to 33, where Vladimir says, say something, and Estragon, I'm trying, Vladimir, say something, Estragon, what do we do now? Vladimir, wait for something. And as shown in this conversation, it is quite clear to see that when they cannot find anything to talk about, they get desperate and don't know what to do. They also constantly repeat themselves, and it makes the time pass much quicker, and it just shows that they do not listen or care about what the other is saying. But it also makes the conversation meaningless and kind of desperate because they just, as I said before, repeat each other to hold the conversation going. And the communication is very distinct in kind of a weird way. For example, on page 5, sentence 60 to 79, we can see an example of a weird conversation where they don't really listen very much to one another. So Estragon says, what's wrong with you, Vladimir? Nothing. Estragon, I'm going. Vladimir, so am I. Estragon, what's the longest sleep? Vladimir, I don't know. Estragon, where shall we go? Vladimir, not far. Estragon, oh yes, let's go far away from here. Vladimir, we can't. Estragon, why not? Vladimir, we have to go back tomorrow. Estragon, what for? Vladimir, to wait for Godot. Estragon, silence. He didn't come. Vladimir, no. Estragon, and now it's too late. Vladimir, yes, now it's night, Estragon. And if you dropped him, pause, if we dropped him. And it's very obviously that they are just talking to talk and make time pass on quicker. Yeah, so I would describe Vladimir and Estragon as creative in some sense because they make all of these things up to talk about just to make time fly quicker, and they really try to make meaning of the waiting period, but for some reason they can't. And Vladimir and Instagram life seems very boring and meaningless in a sense because they're just waiting for someone who never shows up, and therefore they're just wasting their time. And that also implies that the meaning is not something of goddess importance at all, actually. So Goddess is portrayed as a man of importance since they wait for him consistently, and it also makes Goddess stand out as a man whose importance is so big that him showing up is something of greater purpose and not just a normal meeting. But the boy also makes us think that Goddess as a nobody in a way, since it's stated that he does not have a job, and for some reason he still can make the time to meet them. Um, And there actually happens a lot through or towards the ending of the play. Well, Vladimir is so tired of waiting that he asked the boy if he could just tell Goddard that he saw him in Instagram so they can leave instead of waiting. And the boredom and meaninglessness also make the tramps consider suicide because they haven't found any purpose or meaning in what they're doing. But in the end, with them just leaving rather than killing themselves. And it makes us doubt and think about if Goddard is a person or if Goddard represents a purpose and maybe perhaps the purpose of life, or the meaning of everything. You have Ishtigong and Vladimir who intentionally try to find something to talk about, but they always end up not knowing what they're doing or accomplishing by waiting. And talking about tone and themes, it's very important to talk about that the tone feels kind of desperate and hasty in a way because the only reason why they keep the conversation going is to make time pass on quicker and avoid the silence that make them question life. And furthermore, the tone is a bit hasty because over a short period of time they get to cover and speak about a lot without speaking about anything at all. So the themes is talking about themes is very postmodern because the play talk about subjects such as identity, like something you want to find a purpose in life, and the meaning of something greater, or the anxiety of life gives people who, when they can conclude that you make your own purpose, can also be a theme shown at the end, where Vladimir and Esther Grung start to give up and obviously wants to kill themselves or hang themselves. But as I said before, they just end up leaving. So one of the core reasons why this play is very existentialistic is because it deals with the fact that two people are waiting for something of importance, but it doesn't show up for them, so they just have to keep waiting. And I think Vladimir and Instagram actually wait for is the purpose of life, and the greater meaning of where they are and why they are placed there. They want it all to make sense, but they can't at all. The reason why the play is postmodern is because of metafiction. The play in itself is kind of meaningless and weird in many ways, and the characters are as well very meaningless because the only purpose that they have is to make time go by faster. And as we see in the end, they just want to end it because it is just so meaningless. So, yeah, that was it, Doran. Hey.